A man who constantly blames others for his failures will find that the same disappointments greet him year after year, only dressed in different clothes. And a woman who runs from every difficult relationship will soon realize that every new face carries the same old lesson she refused to learn. Life has a way of circling back patiently, persistently, until we understand what it's trying to teach us. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Wherever you are listening tonight, perhaps driving home from work, sitting quietly in your living room, or taking a walk beneath the city lights, remember this truth: life repeats the lessons you refuse to learn. Every man and woman is a student in the grandest classroom there is, the classroom of life itself. Some graduate quickly, others take longer, and a few spend their whole lives repeating the same course. Not because life is unfair, but because life is consistent. It will continue to hand us the same experiences, the same types of people, the same disappointments, until we pause long enough to ask, what is this trying to teach me? You see, there's a quiet intelligence running through all things. Life does not punish, it educates. The person who complains about always being unlucky has not yet realized that his luck is only a reflection of his habits. The woman who continually finds herself in chaos may not yet see that she is the common denominator in every storm. Until awareness dawns, the cycle continues, just as the seasons repeat until spring finally breaks through. The wise person steps back and observes. When life repeats, he doesn't curse the repetition. He studies it. He asks, what part of me is still asleep? What pattern have I not yet changed? And when he learns, truly learns, the lesson fades away like morning mist, never to return. The difference between growth and stagnation is a single word: responsibility. The moment you take responsibility for your circumstances, you stop reliving them. Blame keeps you trapped in yesterday. Responsibility frees you to create tomorrow. Life responds to maturity, and maturity begins with acceptance. If you wish to stop repeating pain, look directly at it. Write down the lessons your failures have tried to teach you. Ask yourself, what behavior of mine brought this about? What belief kept this alive? Then, change it. Small shifts in awareness create lasting transformation. Life does not demand perfection, only progress. And here's a thought to remember: until you learn the lesson, the test will keep returning. That is life's way of guiding you toward the person you are meant to become. Life is the greatest school ever designed, and each of us is enrolled from the moment we draw our first breath. There are no graduation caps, no final diplomas, only lessons that return again and again until they are understood. Every experience, every challenge, and every person we meet is part of a curriculum carefully arranged for our growth. When we refuse to learn from these lessons, life, patient as a wise teacher, repeats them with remarkable precision. It doesn't grow angry, it doesn't scold, it simply recreates the same circumstances in a new form, hoping we'll recognize the pattern and finally understand what it's been trying to show us. The unlearned lesson doesn't fade away, it merely changes faces. The person who never learns to manage his money will find himself in debt no matter how much he earns. The one who avoids responsibility will encounter chaos in every new endeavor. The same frustration, the same disappointment arrives wearing a different disguise, until understanding replaces resistance. There is something almost merciful in this repetition. It means that life is committed to our education. The moment we begin to see experiences as lessons rather than punishments, everything changes. That argument with a friend, the job that slipped away, the dream that didn't materialize, all of them carry messages about who we are and what we need to strengthen within ourselves. The truth is, life doesn't move on until we do. When we cling to old thinking, life gently but firmly reminds us that progress cannot occur without growth. It uses repetition as a mirror, reflecting our blind spots back to us until we finally turn inward and see them clearly. Most people wish for change without realizing that change demands understanding. We can move to another city, start a new job, or enter a new relationship, but if we bring the same mindset with us, life will recreate the same situations. The scenery shifts, but the lesson remains. There is a kind of divine persistence in this law, a perfect symmetry between our inner world and outer experience. Life will never allow us to escape what we are meant to learn. It will patiently keep teaching until we choose awareness. To live wisely, we must become attentive students. Every time something repeats, instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" That simple shift in perception transforms frustration into discovery. The lessons we resist most fiercely are often the ones we most need. They point to our weaknesses, our fears, our unhealed places, inviting us to grow stronger, calmer, more understanding. The repetition is not punishment, it is preparation. It is life shaping us into who we are capable of becoming, reminding us that no lesson is complete until it is learned deep within the heart. When a man avoids responsibility, he unknowingly signs a lifelong contract with repetition. Life, in its quiet wisdom, keeps returning the same disappointments, the same setbacks, until the individual learns to take ownership of his circumstances. You see, avoiding responsibility doesn't protect us, it traps us. It binds us to a loop of recurring frustration because we refuse to face the truth that we are, and always have been, the authors of our own lives. Every situation we encounter bears our signature. The things we experience are reflections of what we've allowed, what we've chosen, and what we've neglected. When we try to pass the blame to others, we only delay our progress. The lesson remains unlearned, waiting patiently for the moment we finally decide to look inward rather than outward. Responsibility is the invisible bridge between failure and growth. The person who says, "I am responsible," begins to claim power over his destiny. The one who says, "It's someone else's fault," hands that power away. Life responds to responsibility like a lock to a key. It opens, revealing paths that were previously hidden. The man who refuses to accept responsibility for his poor habits will find that life keeps presenting him with the same troubles, the same missed opportunities, the same broken trust, the same cycles of regret. Until he changes the way he sees himself, the world will not change its reflection. It is one of life's most consistent laws: what we refuse to own, we are doomed to repeat. When we begin to shoulder our own burdens, something extraordinary happens. The weight that once crushed us begins to transform into strength. The very things we tried to avoid become the sources of our greatest growth. Responsibility is not a punishment, it is an awakening. It is the moment when the individual stops living as a victim of circumstance and starts living as a student of cause and effect. Those who understand this no longer fear difficulty, for they know that every challenge carries within it a lesson meant to sharpen their character. They no longer run from problems, they examine them, learning from each one until life no longer needs to repeat it. We often speak of freedom as the absence of control, but true freedom is the mastery of self, and mastery begins with responsibility. The man who controls his actions, his words, his reactions, controls the direction of his life. He may not control what happens to him, but he always controls what he becomes because of it. Avoidance breeds weakness, acceptance breeds strength. Every repeated mistake, every recurring challenge is simply life saying, "Take ownership. This one is yours to resolve." When we finally do, the repetition ends and the horizon opens wide with new lessons, new opportunities, and a new depth of understanding waiting for the one who dares to be responsible. Awareness is the beginning of all change, the quiet moment when the fog lifts and a person sees clearly for the first time. Until awareness awakens, we move through life on repeat, playing the same roles, thinking the same thoughts, reacting the same way to the same circumstances. It's like a record that skips at the same groove, repeating the same note until someone lifts the needle. That someone must be us. Awareness is the lifting of that needle, the decision to stop running on automatic and start observing ourselves with honesty. Every lasting transformation begins not with action, but with awareness. Without it, we are like travelers without a map, wandering in circles, mistaking movement for progress. When a man becomes aware of his patterns, life begins to shift. He notices that his anger always arises in similar situations, that his failures have familiar roots, that his disappointments carry a recognizable rhythm, and in that recognition lies the seed of liberation. Awareness brings light to the dark corners of the mind where habits hide. It doesn't condemn, it reveals. It whispers gently, "Look here, this is what needs to change." The individual who lives without awareness will blame, complain, and repeat, never realizing that the world is merely mirroring his own unconscious behavior. The one who develops awareness sees that nothing happens to him. It happens for him as a mirror of what is unhealed or unlearned within. Awareness is the great interrupter of cycles. It halts the unconscious repetition that keeps a person bound to the same results. The moment we observe ourselves without judgment, we create a space between impulse and response, between reaction and understanding. In that space lies our power to choose differently. Awareness doesn't erase the past, it transforms its meaning. It allows us to see our experiences not as failures, but as teachers. When you become aware of your own role in your circumstances, you no longer feel helpless. You begin to see patterns of cause and effect, and you learn that by changing the cause, your thoughts, your choices, your focus, you can reshape the effect. Many seek to change the outer world while remaining blind to their inner one. They rearrange their surroundings, people, and situations, hoping that life will improve. But until awareness touches the mind, the same troubles return, disguised in new forms. Awareness turns the gaze inward, asking, what am I contributing to this situation? What belief, what emotion, what expectation am I feeding? That quiet inquiry is the foundation of wisdom. It invites clarity, and with clarity comes control, not over others, but over oneself. Every lesson life repeats is an opportunity to awaken awareness. Each pattern reappears not to punish, but to remind us that we are still asleep to something vital. Once we see clearly, the lesson loses its need to return. Awareness dissolves repetition because it replaces ignorance with understanding, darkness with light, reaction with conscious choice. Pain is one of life's most misunderstood messengers. Most people run from it, curse it, or try to numb it, never realizing that pain is not an enemy but a teacher. It arrives when we have ignored the gentler lessons life tried to whisper. When we do not listen to truth spoken softly, life raises its voice through discomfort. Pain is the final attempt to get our attention, to steer us back onto the right path. It is not punishment, it is guidance. Every disappointment, heartbreak, or loss carries within it a message about where we have strayed and what we need to understand. Those who fear pain close themselves off from growth, while those who study it find wisdom that no comfort could ever provide. If we look closely, we'll see that pain always appears at the point of resistance. It shows up when we cling to what must be released, when we fight change that is long overdue. Life moves in cycles, and pain signals the moment one chapter must end so another can begin. The caterpillar must experience the pressure of transformation before it can fly. Likewise, we must pass through our seasons of discomfort before our potential unfolds. When we avoid pain, we postpone growth. When we face it, we accelerate it. Pain demands presence. It pulls us out of distraction and forces us to confront the truth of our lives. It reveals what matters, who we've become, and where we've been asleep. The most remarkable thing about pain is its precision. It never appears randomly. It strikes exactly where we most need awareness. The person who feels the sting of betrayal is being taught trust. Trust not in others, but in their own discernment. The one who feels the pain of failure is being reminded of humility, patience, and preparation. Life never wastes pain. It tailors it specifically to awaken a quality within us that has remained dormant. Pain sharpens the mind and cleanses the heart. It removes the excess, the pride, the false beliefs we've carried until only truth remains. We often ask why life hurts, but rarely do we ask what life is trying to teach through that hurt. The answer to that question is the key to peace. When pain arrives, we can either resist it or learn from it. Resistance prolongs suffering, acceptance transforms it into understanding. The moment we accept pain as a teacher, it loses its cruelty and gains purpose. Every person who has achieved greatness has walked through pain, not around it. They have looked it in the eye and said, "Show me what I need to know." Pain refines the human spirit the way fire refines gold. It burns away the unnecessary, leaving only strength and clarity behind. Those who understand this no longer dread difficulty. They welcome the growth that follows its passing. Every obstacle reappears until growth replaces resistance. Life, in its quiet intelligence, keeps bringing us face to face with the very things we try to avoid. The same frustrations, the same conflicts, the same disappointments return, not because life is cruel, but because we have not yet changed. Growth is the key that unlocks the next level of experience. Until we grow beyond a problem, it remains our companion. The student who refuses to understand a lesson will see it printed on every new page of life's book. Once he learns it, the page turns effortlessly. The lesson was never meant to break him, it was meant to shape him. When we resist, life insists. When we grow, life moves forward with us. Most people spend their lives fighting the same battles because they are unwilling to change the part of themselves that invites those battles. They switch environments, change partners, start over again and again, yet find the same pattern waiting for them. The faces change, the details shift, but the essence of the challenge remains. Life is far too wise to let us escape the very experiences designed to strengthen us. It will keep presenting the same obstacle until we build the courage, humility, or wisdom required to rise above it. Once we do, the obstacle disappears, not because it surrendered, but because we no longer need it. Growth is not an easy process. It requires honesty, patience, and a willingness to look within. When we resist change, life applies pressure. When we open ourselves to growth, the pressure eases. The obstacle was never outside us. It lived in our attitudes, our fears, our unwillingness to let go of who we used to be. Every difficulty is a mirror reflecting the exact quality that must evolve. If impatience rules you, life will test your patience again and again. If pride blinds you, life will humble you until vision returns. Nothing is random. Every recurring challenge is a signal that growth has been delayed, that something within still needs light. The beautiful truth is that the moment growth occurs, repetition ends. The storm stops visiting the same shore. When we learn, life rewards us with peace and forward movement. Growth doesn't come from running away, but from staying present, observing, and understanding. The obstacle is not the enemy, it is the invitation. It says, "Here is where you must become more." Those who understand this stop resisting and start listening. They begin to ask, what is this trying to teach me? What must I change in myself so that I never have to repeat this again? And in that moment of sincere questioning, growth begins. The obstacle loses its power because we have outgrown the lesson it carried. Life moves us forward only when we become ready, and readiness is born the instant we choose to grow instead of resist. Reflection is the bridge between experience and wisdom. Without it, life becomes a series of repeated events that blur together, each holding potential but never fulfilling it. Every day brings with it lessons, but those lessons only become meaningful when we take the time to pause, think, and understand. Most people rush through life so quickly that they never stop to reflect on what their experiences are trying to tell them. They stumble into the same mistakes, meet the same disappointments, and blame the same circumstances, never realizing that reflection could have freed them long ago. Reflection turns raw experience into polished insight. It transforms the confusion of what happened into the clarity of why it happened. A person who learns to reflect becomes his own teacher. He no longer depends on chance or repetition to learn, he studies his life deliberately. Every setback, every argument, every missed opportunity becomes material for understanding. Reflection gives meaning to pain and direction to growth. It allows us to see patterns that would otherwise remain invisible. The man who reflects after a failure does not fear it, because he has extracted its lesson and carries it forward. The one who refuses reflection must face that same failure again, only more forcefully, until he learns what he was meant to see the first time. Life does not stop sending experiences, but it ceases to repeat them when understanding replaces ignorance. The habit of reflection creates power because it sharpens awareness. When we reflect, we take control of time. We make the past serve the present. We no longer drift from one event to another, we guide ourselves through the lessons that each moment contains. Even a few quiet minutes of honest reflection can reveal truths that were hidden in the noise of daily living. The reflective mind asks simple but profound questions. What did I do well? What could I have done differently? What was this experience trying to teach me? These questions open the door to growth. Without them, life's wisdom remains locked away, and we continue to repeat old patterns under new disguises. Reflection also breeds humility. It reminds us that we are always learning, always growing, never finished. It softens the ego's grip and teaches us to see mistakes not as failures but as teachers. When we reflect, we realize that nothing was wasted. Not the hardship, not the struggle, not the delay. Everything contributed to who we are now. The past, properly understood, becomes a source of guidance rather than regret. The person who takes time to reflect transforms ordinary experiences into extraordinary understanding. Life rewards this attitude with progress. The same problems stop returning because the student has learned. The same storms stop circling because the sailor now knows how to navigate them. Reflection is the secret conversation between the mind and the soul where wisdom is born and life's lessons finally take root. Accountability is the moment a person steps out of the shadows of excuses and into the light of truth. It is the quiet courage to say, I am responsible for my life. Until that moment, the same mistakes repeat, the same patterns reappear, and progress remains just out of reach. Life has a remarkable way of showing us, again and again, the consequences of our own actions until we take ownership of them. Every situation we face carries our fingerprints. The choices we made, the attitudes we held, and the thoughts we nurtured all shape the result before us. To accept that truth is not to feel guilt, it is to claim power. Accountability is not about blame, it is about freedom. The man who accepts responsibility for his failures also accepts his ability to change them. Without accountability, growth is impossible. The person who refuses to own his actions will forever believe life is unfair. He will keep running into the same walls, never realizing he built them himself. When things go wrong, he looks outward, toward others, toward luck, toward fate, but never inward. And because he does not look within, the lesson is forced to repeat. The moment a person says, I am the cause, something extraordinary happens, the cycle breaks. The energy once wasted on excuses turns into fuel for change. Life, which once seemed like a relentless teacher, becomes an ally. It no longer needs to repeat its lessons because the student has finally taken charge of his learning. Accountability brings clarity. When you take ownership of your life, confusion fades. You stop asking, "Why does this keep happening to me?" and begin asking, "What can I do differently next time?" That single shift in perspective transforms failure into instruction. It gives you direction, purpose, and a sense of control. You no longer feel like a victim of circumstance, but a participant in your own creation. Every setback becomes an opportunity to practice greater responsibility. You begin to see that life isn't happening to you. It's responding to you. The quality of your thoughts, the strength of your discipline, the honesty of your actions, all return to you, shaped into experiences designed to reflect your inner world. The practice of accountability requires honesty, but it rewards you with strength. It teaches you to stop hiding behind excuses and to start building the character necessary for success. When you hold yourself accountable, you no longer need life to repeat its lessons. Because you learn them the first time, you listen, you adjust, you grow. Those who refuse accountability remain stuck, circling the same mountain year after year, wondering why the scenery never changes. Those who embrace it climb higher with every step, leaving behind the repetition of old mistakes. Accountability is the gateway to maturity, the quiet force that ends cycles and begins transformation, turning every experience into a stepping stone toward wisdom and mastery. Change begins the moment we stop blaming and start learning. Blame is the great paralyzer of human progress. It freezes the mind and locks the spirit in place. The instant we cast responsibility outward, to people, to luck, to circumstance, we surrender the power to change our situation. Nothing in life will improve until we accept that it begins and ends with us. Blame may feel comfortable, but it breeds repetition. It's the refuge of the stagnant, a shelter for those afraid to look inward. Learning, on the other hand, is liberation. It opens the door to understanding, to growth, to transformation. When we stop blaming, we stop being victims of circumstance and become students of life. Every challenge, every difficulty, every loss turns into a classroom where wisdom is waiting to be discovered. The mind that blames is the mind that refuses to see. It clings to the idea that life is unfair, that others are responsible, that luck has turned against it. But life has never been unfair. It is exact. It gives us what we need to grow, not what we wish to have. When something repeats, it is not because the world is cruel. It is because we have not yet learned. The moment we stop blaming, clarity emerges. We begin to see how our attitudes, habits, and expectations have shaped our outcomes. We start connecting the dots between cause and effect, realizing that the results we experience are the natural harvest of the seeds we have sown. And with that realization, change begins quietly but powerfully from within. Learning replaces the poison of blame with the energy of awareness. When we learn, we ask questions instead of making accusations. We seek understanding rather than defense. We say, "What can this teach me? What truth is hidden inside this experience?" Those simple questions dissolve resentment and give birth to wisdom. The moment we begin to learn, we start to grow beyond the patterns that once held us captive. Life no longer needs to send the same lessons because we have received the message. Blame keeps us chained to the past. Learning sets us free to move forward. Change does not happen because life becomes easier. It happens because we become wiser. Each time we take responsibility, each time we seek understanding instead of fault, we evolve. The person who learns from a mistake transforms it into a stepping stone. The one who blames others trips over the same stone again and again. Blame is blindness, learning is sight. And when we see clearly, we can no longer remain the same. We begin to act differently, think differently, and live differently. Change becomes inevitable, natural, and lasting. The cycle of repetition ends not when the world softens, but when we awaken to our role within it. The day we stop blaming and start learning is the day we finally begin to change. Life rewards those who listen to its quiet instructions. The truth is, life is always speaking. It never stops. It whispers through success and failure, through comfort and discomfort, through the rise and fall of every circumstance. But most people are too distracted, too hurried, or too proud to listen. They rush from one experience to another, repeating the same mistakes, unaware that the answers they seek are hidden in the lessons they keep ignoring. Life doesn't shout its wisdom. It delivers it in silence through subtle signs, patterns, and feelings. The more we listen, the clearer the message becomes. Those who learn to listen discover that life itself is a teacher, infinitely patient, endlessly consistent, always guiding us toward our highest understanding. Listening to life means paying attention to how things unfold, observing cause and effect, and being humble enough to admit when the same challenge returns. It means noticing the repetition of discomfort and asking, "What is this trying to tell me?" Every event that disturbs your peace carries a message. Every disappointment is a conversation waiting to be heard. The man who listens learns early and moves forward. The one who refuses to listen is forced to relive the same lesson until he finally hears what was being said all along. Listening saves time, effort, and heartache because it replaces resistance with awareness. Life rewards the listener not with luck, but with clarity. The kind of clarity that prevents needless repetition. Listening is an act of stillness, and stillness is rare in a world that celebrates noise. To listen, one must quiet the constant chatter of complaint, comparison, and judgment. Only in silence does understanding arrive. When a person learns to listen to life, he begins to sense patterns in his own experiences. He notices that every time he acts from pride, pain follows. He sees that patience opens doors, while haste closes them. He begins to realize that life isn't against him, it's teaching him. Listening transforms confusion into comprehension. What once felt like chaos begins to make sense, because behind every circumstance is a principle, and behind every principle is a lesson meant to elevate the human spirit. Life rewards those who listen because listening itself is an act of alignment. It connects us with truth. It allows us to adjust before pain forces us to. Those who listen don't need to be broken to learn. They learn through awareness. They don't need to lose everything to appreciate what they have. They understand through gratitude. Listening opens the door to wisdom, and wisdom ends repetition. Life always rewards those who give it their attention, for attention is the currency of understanding. The more deeply we listen to our thoughts, our emotions, our failures, and our successes, the more life reveals its patterns and principles. In those quiet revelations lies the secret to peace, progress, and purpose, for life never stops teaching. It only waits for us to start listening. The only real failure is refusing to learn the lesson life offers. Many people look at failure as an endpoint, as a judgment on their worth or ability, but that is a misunderstanding. Failure is never the opposite of success. It is a part of it, a signal, a guidepost pointing directly to what we have yet to understand. Life is patient, persistent, and precise. It will continue to present the same lesson until we grasp it fully. Every disappointment, every setback, every mistake is an opportunity dressed in disguise, and the moment we ignore it, the opportunity becomes a repeating pattern, returning until it is recognized and mastered. True failure lies not in the event itself, but in our refusal to extract its meaning. Refusing to learn keeps a person trapped in a loop of repetition. The individual who blames others, avoids reflection, or resists change will see the same struggles arise again and again. It's as though life is holding up a mirror, patiently showing the reflection until the lesson is finally acknowledged. The same financial mistakes, the same broken relationships, the same career frustrations appear until the student is ready. Life does not act out of cruelty, it operates on exactness. What we refuse to see within ourselves will inevitably be reflected back in the world around us. The moment we embrace the lesson, however, repetition stops and life moves forward with us. Learning is the antidote to what we mistakenly call failure. Learning requires humility, courage, and attention. It demands that we examine our thoughts, actions, and attitudes with honesty. Most people fear this kind of self-examination because it reveals uncomfortable truths, yet it is precisely what frees us from repeating our mistakes. Each failure carries a map, if we are willing to read it. When we refuse, the map stays hidden, and life continues to guide us through the same terrain until comprehension dawns. The person who refuses to learn remains in the classroom indefinitely, repeating the same lesson in different forms until awareness arrives. But the one who embraces learning turns even the harshest experiences into stepping stones, moving steadily toward wisdom, strength, and success. The irony is that failure itself is neutral. It is the response to it that defines our progress. We can curse it, avoid it, or deny it, and life will obligingly repeat it. Or we can study it, understand it, and integrate its teaching, and life will no longer need to repeat the challenge. Every great achiever has understood this principle. They treat setbacks not as punishments but as guides. They listen, they adjust, they grow. And through this process, repetition ceases, for the lesson has been learned at last. Real failure is not falling down, it is staying down, closing one's eyes to the instruction life has placed before us, refusing to allow experience to teach the soul in closing. Let us remember that life is a patient teacher, endlessly repeating the lessons we refuse to learn, not to punish us, but to guide us toward growth, wisdom, and mastery. Every challenge, every setback, every disappointment carries within it a message, a mirror reflecting the parts of ourselves that require attention. Avoidance, blame, and resistance only prolong the cycle, while awareness, reflection, accountability, and a willingness to learn transform repetition into progress. The moment we listen, truly listen, and embrace responsibility for our choices, life rewards us with clarity, strength, and opportunity. The recurring patterns we once feared become stepping stones, shaping us into the people we are capable of becoming. The key is simple yet profound: see the lesson, take ownership, and act upon it. When we do, life stops repeating the same trials and begins presenting new experiences, new doors, new horizons. We are no longer trapped in cycles of frustration. We are moving forward, consciously and purposefully, toward the life we were meant to live. Remember, until you learn the lesson, the test will keep returning. Choose today to learn, to grow, and to rise above yesterday's patterns. Step boldly into your responsibility, embrace the wisdom hidden in every challenge, and let life's repeating lessons become the compass guiding you to a brighter, more empowered tomorrow.